Welcome to This Week in Royal History, where we delve into the captivating stories of royals from around the world and across the centuries. Join us as we explore their profound impact on history and society through their triumphs and tragedies. These royals have shaped the world we live in today, leaving behind legacies that continue to inspire and intrigue us. So sit back and relax and journey with us through time as we uncover the enchanting and sometimes tragic lives of the royals who captivated our hearts and imaginations throughout the ages.
The Tudors Dynasty Podcast.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Henry, King of Navarre and future Henry IV of France, married Margaret of Valois, daughter of Henry II of France, and Catherine de' Medici at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris on the 18th of August, 1572. The marriage was controversial, as Henry was a Huguenot and Margaret was Catholic. Henry was not allowed to enter Notre Dame Cathedral, and Margaret's brother took his place during the Mass inside. Their wedding would draw many Huguenots to Paris, and 6 days later, the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre occurred, where a Catholic faction assassinated many of the Huguenots. The marriage was unhappy, remained childless, and finally annulled in 1599 after years of separation. Maria Anna of Spain was born on the 18th of August, 1606. To Philip III of Spain and Margaret of Austria. From a young age, she was thrown into political betrothals by her father and then her brother. Maria Anna was engaged to John Charles, heir of Ferdinand II, Holy Roman Emperor. They were first cousins. However, John Charles died before the marriage took place. Negotiations began between her brother, Philip IV, and James I and VI of England and Scotland of an alliance through the marriage of Maria Anna and Charles, Prince of Wales. These negotiations ended up stalling as Charles refused to convert to Catholicism, and Maria Anna would not marry a Protestant. In February 1631, 5 years after the initial betrothal, Maria Anna married Ferdinand, King of Hungary and Bohemia, heir to the Holy Roman Empire. He was the younger brother of her first betrothed, and therefore also her first cousin. By all reports, the marriage was happy, and Ferdinand remained faithful to Maria Anna. Together they had 6 children, though not all lived to adulthood. Their only surviving daughter, Maria Anna, would marry her maternal uncle, Philip IV of Spain. In 1637, her father-in-law died, and she became Holy Roman Empress. She advised her husband in politics and acted as a regent when he was away during the 30 Years' War. Maria Anna died in childbirth on the 13th of May, 1646, at the age of 39. She was laid to rest with her infant daughter and buried in the imperial crypt next to her 2 sons who died at an early age. Prince Geoffrey was born on the 23rd of September, 1158, to Henry II of England and Eleanor of Aquitaine. He was their 4th son. In July 1181, Geoffrey married Constance, Duchess of Brittany. Constance received the Duchess of Brittany when Geoffrey's father forced her father to abdicate in 1166, and their marriage was a result of this altercation. Geoffrey participated in the rebellions against his father and later his brothers, and was a good friend of Philip II of France. He spent a lot of time at Philip's court in Paris and gained a reputation for treason for going against his father. Geoffrey and Constance had 3 children, 2 of whom would survive to adulthood. Geoffrey died on the 19th of August, 1186, at 27 years old. He was buried at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Alphonso, future Earl of Chester, was born on the 24th of November, 1273, to Edward I of England and Eleanor of Castile in Gascony, France. He was their 9th child, but would eventually become heir apparent after his elder brothers died young. He was named for his maternal uncle, Alphonso X of Castile. He was given his own household where his mother invested in a Spanish cook. At 10 years old, Alphonso was engaged to Margaret, daughter of Floris V, Count of Holland. He died on the 19th of August in 1284 at Windsor Castle, a few months before the wedding. His younger brother, Edward, born only months before his death, became the next heir to the English throne. Alphonso was buried at Westminster Abbey. Princess Elizabeth was born on the 19th of August, 1596, to James VI of Scotland and Anne of Denmark in Fife, Scotland. In 1603, her father also became King of England when Elizabeth I died. The family moved to England, and Elizabeth and her siblings were raised at Oatlands Palace, where she received a comprehensive education. By 12 years old, she was fluent in many languages. Elizabeth had many suitors due to her high royal status, but most were rejected quickly. In February 1613, Elizabeth married Frederick V, Count of Palatine of the Rhine, at the Palace of Whitehall. After their lavish wedding, they remained in England for 2 months before beginning their journey home. Together they had 13 children, though not all lived to adulthood. In 1619, Elizabeth was crowned Queen of Bohemia 3 days after her husband. Their reign only lasted 1 year, as Ferdinand II, Holy Roman Empire, defeated the Bohemian Protestant armies in battle and regained the throne. Elizabeth is known as the Winter Queen. The family fled Prague, but could not return to the Palatine either, as Catholic leagues occupied it, so they went to The Hague at the invitation of the Prince of Orange and remained there in exile. Frederick died in October 1632, last seeing Elizabeth that January. After her husband's death, Elizabeth lost 4 more of her children. Then her brother, Charles I, was executed in England. And finally, her remaining Stuart family was living in exile in Europe. In 1661, Elizabeth traveled to England after the Stuarts were restored to the throne and her nephew, Charles II, was king. She remained in England until her death from pneumonia on the 13th of February, 1662, in London. She was buried at Westminster Abbey. Interesting fact, her daughter, Sophia, Electress of Hanover, was the mother of George I of Great Britain. It's through Elizabeth that the Hanoverians claim the throne. She is ancestress to all British monarchs, starting with George I. Laurence Hastings was born on the 20th of March, 1319, to John Hastings, 2nd Baron Hastings, and Juliana Leyburn. In 1339, he was recognized as a new creation of the Earl of Pembroke, a title that was first held by his great-grandfather and passed through a female line. He also held the titles of Baron Abergavenny and Baron Hastings through the reigns of Edward II and Edward III. Laurence married Lady Agnes Mortimer sometime before 1347, and they had 1 son. He died. Laurence Hastings, Earl of Pembroke, died on the 20th of August, 1348, at Abergavenny Castle, and was buried at the Prior Church of St. Mary there. Interesting fact, Laurence's son John married Margaret of England, a daughter of Edward III, in 1359. Yolande of Valois was born on the 23rd of September in France to Charles VII and Marie of Anjou. She was named for her grandmother, Yolande of Aragon. She married the future Amadeus IX of Savoy in 1452 and became Duchess of Savoy in 1465. They had 10 children, although not all lived to adulthood. Yolande became regent in 1472 for her young son and allied with Charles, Duke of Burgundy, against her brother, Louis XI. She died on the 23rd of August, 1478, at the age of 43.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Marie of Cleves was born on the 19th of September, 1426, to Adolphe I, Duke of Cleves, and Marie of Burgundy. In November 1440, 14-year-old Marie married 46-year-old Charles, Duke of Orleans, a grandson of Charles V of France. She was his third wife. Their first child was born 17 years later, and they would have 3 children altogether. Marie was an active poet who produced her own ballads and was a patron of letters. She died on the 23rd of August, 1487, at 60 years old. Her son became Louis XII of France in 1498 when the main Valois line was distinguished, becoming the Valois-Orleans reign. Isabella of Portugal was born on the 2nd of October, 1470, to Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile. She was their eldest daughter and became heir presumptive to Castile when her mother claimed the throne after the death of her uncle, Henry IV of Castile. She spent her childhood watching her mother fight a war of succession in Castile. In 1490, she married by proxy to Prince Alphonso, the only son of John II of Portugal. The marriage was a political match, but it was also a happy and loving one. In July 1491, Alphonso unexpectedly died after a riding accident, and Isabella was sent back to Spain. In 1495, her first husband's uncle became King of Portugal as Manuel I, and requested Isabella's hand in marriage. They eventually married in September 1497. Also, in 1497, Isabella became heir again to the throne of Castile after the death of her only brother. Isabella died on the 23rd of August, 1498, at the age of 27. Her son, Miguel, survived, but would die before his 2nd birthday. Isabella was buried at the convent of Santa Isabel in Toledo, Spain. Her husband, Manuel, then married her youngest sister, Maria of Aragon. Geoffrey Plantagenet was born on the 24th of August, 1113, to Fulk V of Anjou and Ermengarde of Maine. He was their eldest son. He received the name Plantagenet from a sprig of broom blossom that he wore in his hat. In 1128, 15-year-old Geoffrey married 26-year-old Empress Matilda of England, and they had 3 sons, including the future Henry II of England. Their marriage was happy and brought about an alliance to England, Normandy, and Anjou. In 1135, his father-in-law died, and Geoffrey supported his wife to claim her inheritance as heir to the English throne. England and Normandy, however, selected her cousin, Stephen of Blois, as king. Matilda deposed Stephen in 1141 and was proclaimed Lady of the English, and in 1144, Geoffrey assumed the title Duke of Normandy after securing the area for Matilda. He ceded the title in 1149 to his son, Henry. Geoffrey died on the 7th of September 1151 at the age of 38, and Henry took over as head of the Plantagenet family. In 1153, the English proclaimed that Stephen would remain king for the rest of his life, but Henry would be his heir and succeed him in 1154 to begin a new dynasty. Cecily of York was born on the 20th of March, 1469, to Edward IV of England and Elizabeth Woodville at Westminster Palace in London. She was named for her paternal grandmother, Cecily Neville, Duchess of York. Through her family, she was a daughter, sister, niece, sister-in-law, aunt, and great-aunt to 8 of England's kings and queens. In 1480, Cecily was named Lady of the Garter with her elder sister Mary. She was betrothed to 2 princes of Scotland in her youth, but her father's death in 1483 changed her marriage prospects. Cecily, along with her siblings, including Edward V, were declared illegitimate, and her uncle claimed the throne as Richard III. Her 2 younger brothers, also known as the Princes in the Tower, were never seen again after the summer of 1483. Cecily married John Wells, 1st Viscount Wells, in 1487 after the accession of Henry VII of England, and her elder sister Elizabeth's marriage to Henry. John was the half-brother of Henry's mother, Margaret Beaufort, and a staunch Lancastrian. Together they had 2 daughters who died young. John died in 1499, and Cecily had considerable grief. She turned to court, where she was involved in various royal ceremonies, including carrying her nephew, Arthur, Prince of Wales, at his christening, attending her sister at her coronation, and carrying the train of Catherine of Aragon at her wedding to Prince Arthur. Sometime between 1502 and 1504, Cecily married Thomas Kyme, a Lincolnshire squire of low birth. Henry had her banished from court for this marriage, and her estates were confiscated. Margaret Beaufort allowed Cecily and Thomas to reside at her own property, Collyweston Palace. Cecily died on the 24th of August, 1507, on the Isle of Wight, and was buried either at Quor Abbey or the Friary of Kings Langley. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Tudors Dynasty podcast. If you love the show and would like to show your support, please head on over to my Patreon page. That's Patreon, patreon.com/Tudors Dynasty for more information. Over there, you're going to find commercial-free episodes. You'll get early access, and there's some exclusive content as well, with more stuff to come as I'm rebuilding it. Also, recently I returned from England and cannot wait to go back. But this time, I would love to bring you with me. So if you're interested to go on a tour of England with me, why don't you send me an email, Rebecca@tudorsdynasty.com, for more information. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
The Tudors Dynasty Podcast.